said about seducers in his classic work, The Art of Seduction. He said, all have a sense of style and self-deprecation. A quick example is when you go up to a girl somewhere and she lets you know she's not interested. Most people get rejected and walk away. I just say something like whatever, like, oh man, I can never get girls. You just make fun of it, this whole situation. Now this is very misunderstood. Whenever I say this in a talk, in a city somewhere, invariably, I have guys coming up to me afterwards saying, listen, I agree with everything you said, it was wonderful, except the part of making fun of myself. I would never do that. Well, that's why you have no girlfriend. Be very clear that I am not talking about neurotic, self-effacing, self-degrading humor a la Woody Allen. I'm not talking about that, that's not what I mean. That's putting yourself down, that's different. I'm talking about having enormous fun in life, with or without her, laughing at her and at yourself. It portrays confidence. It demonstrates that you are used to winning on a level that no amount of posing beside your Porsche with your cool shades and flexing your lats could ever do. It shows confidence. Another example that I could give you to demonstrate what you should act like if a girl is pretending to be offended. If you kind of maybe cross the line a little bit. So if I'm talking to a girl and I got my hand on her back and I'm like, you know, you're kind of cute, you and I should get together. And she'll say something like, hold on, I just told you I'm married. She's pretending to be offended. You pretend to be sorry and go, I know, you know, hold out your hand for her to slap it, or slap your own hand. I can never get girls. Say something like that. Trait number 8. He realizes the massive importance of body language. He studies that carefully. There was a study conducted in England, a scientific study that says that communication is 93% body language. In other words, they say that 55% of a person's judgment is based on visual perception. That is, how you look, and how you stand, and how you approach her. And 38% is based on your voice tone. Only 7% of the impression you make on a woman depends on what you actually say. That's why opening lines are irrelevant. Now, one doesn't need to be a rocket scientist to quickly realize that if 93% of the impression we make has to do with our looking all right and talking in a certain way, then women are relying on their senses to form their opinions about us, not what we say at all. Many women will in fact decide whether or not they like us during the first 10 seconds. It seems incredible that what we have to say to her when introduced has so little consequence. She already has an impression of you. But naturals know this. He knows that a man falls in love through his eyes, but a woman falls in love through her ears. Body language is everything. The natural seducer focuses on her like there is no one else in the world. He is a master of his body language and voice intonation. He leans into her, inviting her to share herself in return. He smiles with his eyes and his whole being. This is the essence of charm. The aura that some people give off, he knows this and practices it. Eye contact is so important. We don't use it enough. Eye contact is huge. Smile and wink at her. Here's an example of the way I would approach a girl in a club or a party or whatever. I always immediately touch them. My hand is on her back the moment, before I say anything, I always move in from the side. Some guys will approach from the front with their drink, whatever, and they'll say, hi, how are you doing, and what's your name, etc. They kind of do that. Some guys approach indirectly from behind, so that they don't, I don't know. I approach kind of naturally from the side. And so when I'm talking to a girl, I'm not directly talking to her like this. I'm on the side like this, and I kind of rock in. I don't know how else to describe it. I'm just like, hello, what's your name? And as I do, my hand is on the small of her back immediately. That's where my hand is. The moment I talk to the girl, it doesn't matter who it is, I'm touching her, hand is on the small of the back. And that's the first thing I do. And then I'm talking to her kind of on the side like this, and I lean out, and I'll come back in again to say something. It's just the way I kind of do it. And when you do that, when you're used to putting your to touching girls, I guess, putting your hands on them, I always do the small of the back. I never, like the shoulder or elbow or hold a hand. I don't do anything like that. I just touch the small of the back. It's the way I do it. And it becomes natural. They allow it because it's the way you are. If you never ever, if you meet a girl and you never approach her in that familiar way, and then you try and do it later on in another encounter, for instance, with her, she'll kind of go, why are you touching me? But with some guys, it's just natural that they do that, and women will allow it. They're like, that's the way he is, and they don't even notice it. Here's an example of what I'm talking about when I say that women will allow men certain liberties that they would never allow other men. I was standing in a crowded nightclub one time with two beautiful girls who had just met. They knew each other, and I had one on this hand here and one on this side, and I was talking to these two girls, and we had a good rapport, and we were laughing and having fun. And all of a sudden, one of the girls says, let's get out of here and go over in the corner over there or somewhere else, because that guy coming through the crowd, we don't like him. And I looked, and sure enough, coming through the crowd was a guy, and he was kind of looking around for the girls, and he was heading towards us. And I said, well, what's the matter with him? Why don't you girls like that guy? And they said, well, we don't like him because he's always got his hands on us, he's always touching us. We call him Mr. Gropey. And we just don't like that. And I laughed, because at the very same moment that they said that, and I pointed it out to them, I had my hand on the small of each of their back with my little finger kind of tucked into the jeans, and I had, since the moment I met them, I had been touching them the whole time. And I laughed, and I said to them, I said, listen, you call him Mr. Gropey, I've been touching you guys since I met you. And they laughed as well, because they realized what they had just said. And they said, well, they didn't notice. They said, we didn't notice you were touching us, because with you it was different. It seems more natural. And that's a difference. That's what I'm talking about when women will allow certain liberties to men who have good intentions and are having fun, as opposed to guys who are trying to take something from them and grope them, Mr. Gropey. Trait number 9. He knows that women are not attracted to men who are good looking. They are attracted to men who are attractive. Big difference. We have this notion that all successful seducers must have been good looking. A quick study of the history of the great seducers will disabuse you of that notion immediately. History is replete with examples of men who were not good looking at all, who were too short, and yet who could seduce any woman they desired. So some of the most notorious womanizers out there were just plain looking guys, or even quite ugly. Look at some of the paintings of Casanova. Not what we would call a very good looking guy. But Casanova said this about himself. He said this: I was not handsome, but I had something better than beauty, a striking way of expressing myself, which always compelled interest in my favor. Now, considering his first sexual encounter was a threesome with two nuns, I would say he had a very compelling way of expressing himself. Jean-Paul Sartre, the great philosopher and even greater ladies' man, was notoriously beastly ugly, and yet women fell at his feet. He was 4'9". One eye went this way, one eye went that way. Look at pictures of him. Go Google him. It has been written about him that women fell for him because he knew how to explain their soul to them. That's the secret. The language of women is words themselves. Men fall in love through their eyes, women fall in love through their ears. Voltaire said, give me 5 minutes to explain away my ugly face, and I can bed the Queen of France. No idle boast. These guys were good. So don't ever let that be an excuse. Some guy said to me in New York recently, I feel like I am too short for women to be attracted to me. I told him the only thing he was short on was the will to cast off his self-limiting beliefs. So those were plain and ugly men, and yet they have the ability to mesmerize everyone around them. Women I have talked to have a term for guys like this. Now please note, this is not something that most men are aware of. It is strictly woman speak. They describe a man like this as being Sexy ugly. This term is well known to women, but virtually unknown to men. There was a Salon article that described the term. It said this: the sexy ugly guy is one who works on you in spite of yourself, who shows up in your erotic dreams not because you want him there, but simply because he's asserting his right to be there. Women know within 5 minutes of meeting a guy whether or not they would sleep with him. They know right away. A girlfriend of mine once told me that women have this thing called the hover factor. This refers to a test that women have with a guy. Within 30 seconds of meeting him, it goes like this. If she can picture him hovering over her, as in a sexual position hovering over top of her, she will be receptive to sleeping with him if everything works out that way. If she can't get that picture of this guy hovering over her, she will never sleep with him, ever. Here's an example of how powerful what I'm talking about can be. This happened to me one time. I was in a local pub with a friend, and we just happened to meet up with another guy that he knew and the guy's fiancée. And she was gorgeous. So we were sitting around a small round table, and the guy's fiancée was sitting beside me to my left, round table. The guy was across from me, and my friend was on my right. So we were sitting there talking and joking and carrying on and having some wine and getting to know each other. My friend kept engaging the other guy in conversation. So this girl and I were left talking to each other a fair amount. She told me she was a massage therapist and she was running her business out of her home. So I said, hey, maybe I should come over and get a massage sometime. Her boyfriend heard this and started talking about what a great massage therapist she was and how her business was just starting to take off, and that, yeah, I should go get a massage from her and I should tell all my friends. So this carried on to the evening, and we had great rapport. I was talking to this girl a lot, friendly banter, and then suddenly 3 glasses of Pinot Noir later, while the other 2 guys were talking and engaging each other, she started telling me something or other, and I could see in her eyes that there was something else. So I cut her off in mid-sentence. She was telling me something. I cut her off in mid-sentence and I said, you realize, of course, that you and I are going to get together. I said this with a dead serious look on my face. I cut her off in mid-sentence and I said that to her. She looked absolutely stunned. She stared at me with her mouth hanging open. And then after about 5 seconds, she quietly whispered, yes. Of course, I didn't follow through with it. But I just wanted to illustrate to you how powerful the mindset of a natural can be when you have the skill set to be able to amplify attraction and to concentrate chemistry like that. It's very powerful. It's a very powerful thing to learn. Now we come to trait number 10. To an enlightened seducer, his relationships never end. Think about that for a second. A natural realizes this. He is connected to the women in his life forever. All men who are naturals are friends with women. There is no animosity towards him. There are no hard feelings toward him, and they never say a bad word about him, even long after they are no longer together as a couple. How in the world is this possible? Here's how. A woman will only feel cheated if she thought you promised something to her that you didn't deliver. A woman will only say bad things about you if she thought she was going to get something that she didn't get. We make long-term promises on short-term feelings. But you were honest with her. You don't know about the future. And you gave her room to breathe. You respected her that much. So his relationship with her never ends. As I said before, sure, he may not be with her physically throughout her life, but he has touched her so profoundly that she will always carry him around in her heart. Through all of her subsequent relationships and breakups, she will always think of you. A natural knows that he might not be the one she is with forever, but he is the one she will remember forever. And that is a gift. A gift you give to her, and a gift she gives to you. To give you an example of what I mean when I say that to a natural seducer, his relationships never end, let me give you the example of my 40th birthday party. my girlfriend threw me a surprise birthday party on that day at my house. What was cool about it was she invited a whole bunch of my ex-girlfriends, women that I used to have in my life. There was probably 9 girls that came to this party for me. And what was cool about it was a lingerie party. My girlfriend knew me so well that she thought, what better party to celebrate Zan's 40th birthday party than to have all his ex-girlfriends around him wearing lingerie. And I couldn't agree more. It was one of the most beautiful days of my life. It was profound. I remember looking around. It was a surprise party. I didn't know it was going to happen. All these girls were there to celebrate me, and I was standing there and looking around in the room at all these beautiful girls who have created who I am, who have added to my life immensely. And I thought, what a profound moment. This is the goal. This is what you want to create in your life, that kind of beauty. Yeah, people move in and out of your life. That's irrelevant. They brought beauty into your life, and they're still beautiful today. You still miss them. You still adore them today. You still delight in them. They'll always be your friends, and they'll always be with you forever. Let's discuss the notion of men, what it means to be a man today. We all know something has changed. Society has changed for men and for women. The invention of the pill 40 years ago sparked the sexual revolution and gave us all the sexual freedom that we have and enjoy today. We all, both men and women, feel this is a good thing. But deep down, we can't shake the feeling that we might have lost something vital along the way. As a result, men today feel lost. Marriage doesn't seem to work anymore. Women and men simply don't get invested as deeply today as they once did. Intentions are noble, dreams are sky high, and yet all around us we see the smoking wreckage of relationships. A man who is just recovering from the destruction of his marriage or relationship is terrified of the notion of trying to navigate the dating waters of society today. Everywhere I go, the message I hear from men is the same. They are confused and not sure exactly how to approach today's woman, let alone date her or have a relationship with her. A lot of men, unfortunately, are becoming more and more bitter, more sad and more jaded because of their fundamental confusion. Misogyny runs rampant, not necessarily overt, of course, but simmering beneath the surface in a very large number of men today. Our traditional roles, that of provider and protector, have been virtually negated for a variety of reasons. For thousands of years, women have needed men to have those roles, to be their providers and protectors. For thousands of years. Well, today's woman has demonstrated that she is perfectly capable of providing for herself, thank you very much, and perfectly capable of protecting herself. In today's society, men feel they are gradually losing their utility to women. So what's left? It feels like there is no longer someone for everyone. There is no longer a lid for every pot. Society today makes it so that a few get a lot and some get none. Sounds pretty discouraging, right? What do women need us for anyway? Well, the answer is a good one. Women still need us to celebrate them. They can't live without it. Amidst all this confusion, despite the fact that today's woman has been raised on women's magazines that are dedicated to putting men and their motives under a microscope, in spite of all the warnings from their somewhat bitter and jaded girlfriends, in spite of all the media, talk shows, woman remains, at heart, a female, waiting for guys like you. Women still want to be seduced. They love intrigue. I say this all the time, but it's true. Women are complicit in their own seduction. They want it more than you do. Every woman wants to be in a love story. The man who realizes this one simple truth realizes everything. A woman is complicit in her own seduction, and a man who understands this is forever surrounded by beauty. So, in today's society, men have lost their way. We no longer know how to be men. We simply can't understand the dating scene. Everything our fathers told us no longer applies. We're not sure if we should open the door for her, if we should pay, if we should wait 2 days before we call so we don't appear needy, or is it 3? We don't know anymore. Should we be sensitive and considerate, sharing our feelings with others, with other men, and crying often? Or should we steel ourselves against the vagaries of life, shouldering our burden as men with a resolute and silent determination? This whole notion, the whole notion of manliness, of masculinity, has been modified, made more sensitive, more politically correct, more blended, more safe, more manageable, more feminine. And women everywhere are losing faith. They're wringing their hands at the lack of real men in the world. The whole idea behind the equality movement is that men and women are to recognize that they are equal. But somewhere, it got warped into the notion that men and women should become the same. The ridiculous notion that there is no difference between the genders. Men and women today are blending, our roles are overlapping. We are becoming the same, but not equal. That was the goal. The goal was equality. The result is sameness. There's the problem. Now, the multi-billion-dollar self-help industry has missed men completely. The reason for this is simple. It ignores what rings true to men. It is all about changing external things about him, his appearance, his environment, etc., but not his essence, not his presence, not his core. In our interactions with women, if we only concentrate on external tactics and techniques, the external things, we miss the only thing about us that women will really respond to. And one of the fundamental things that men are missing today is the very notion of manliness, what it means to be a man. Women are looking for it and can't find it. Men today have a secret fear of women. Why? Because we realize, we think, she has all the power. Most men feel they need a woman to validate them, to prove to themselves that someone out there can find them attractive. But if it is true that the majority of men crave validation from a woman, then the converse must also be true. She also has the power to invalidate him, to reject him. This stops men in their tracks, scares them to their very core, and they begin to resent this power that women have over them. How did we get this way? What has changed? Why is it so difficult? As we all know, dating and relationships have devolved into a series of manipulation and mind games and a contest of wills. There's a kind of mean spirit that permeates relationships today. As men, we are increasingly apprehensive and unsure, masking our fundamental desires for the sake of political correctness and, quite frankly, for our own sanity. We have to. This is because in today's dating world, if you state your desire for her too enthusiastically, you lose. So instead, we learn that we must be aloof and act uncaring and cool, when what we really want to say is, you excite me, and I can't wait to see you again. We really do want to say that to a woman who delights us, but we can't. We become too sensitive, too cautious, too afraid, too aloof, and too detached. I am completely unrestrained with women and having enormous fun. I'm a slave to my love of women, and they can sense it. The weakness of women is language and words. Fortunately, this is one of my strong points. And I act like they are from Mars if they try to repel my advances, like it doesn't make any sense. So I'll say like, come out with me for a drink tonight. I'll pick you up at 7. I can't. My boyfriend wouldn't like it. Oh, hey, I understand. Let's make it 8 then. That's an example of the kind of thing I would say to a girl. Keep it fun and light. Or this. I would say, you know what? You're kind of cute. You have the second nicest eyes I've ever seen. You'd make a good girlfriend for me. I think I'm going to call you. Oh, you think so, do you? Of course. I'm going to call you tomorrow night. Wait by the phone. I never ever worry about a woman's resistance to me. If she says she's not interested and leaves, no problem, I understand, I respect that. But if I ever see her again, I immediately go up to her, smile and wink, and pick up right where I left off, as if she had never resisted me in the first place. In other words, her boyfriend objections or whatever mean nothing. So I go up to her again, I just see her again, I'm a big smile, I'm like, hello sweetie, did you miss me? She's like, hardly. I want to see you, tell me your number and I'll remember it. No, I told you last time I have a boyfriend. Oh, so you're still seeing Norman? His name's not Norman. I smile and wink and go, oh, really? That's very interesting. You know, I have 2 bottles of champagne at home. No thanks. Yeah, I had 2 bottles. One to drink and one to pour all over your body. This will get her laughing. She'll say, you never give up, do you? And I will say, of course not. Wouldn't be the same if I did, now would it? No, I suppose not. But that's just me. That's how I interact with women. I keep it fun and light. Because it's fun. You know, it used to be that fathers and sons lived together for many years in close proximity, doing and learning together, trying and failing together. Fathers generally had a trade, a skill that was learned over many years, and sons would spend a lot of time with their fathers learning the same trade, watching as they worked. Of course, the son did not always follow in his father's footsteps. He often eventually chose a very different profession. But none of that mattered, because the key was the close connection they shared in those formative years. The son trying to emulate his father and learning what it means to be a man. We have largely lost that today. There are fewer trades and more cubicles. There are fewer homes today where the father is present at all, either physically or emotionally. Most husbands and wives have split up, remarried, become single parents, or moved away. There are all kinds of configurations and permutations. Even the homes where the fathers are physically there, they are hardly ever involved in any meaningful way in their son's life. Modern man comes home from the office to his wife and his stepchildren, helps out around the house somewhat, and then collapses in front of the television. It is a rare man today who spends time with his son. He is either not there at all or too distracted, too busy. Of course, this is a generalization, but true in an increasingly large number of households. The result is a generation of men, our generation, that has been raised largely by women. And a mother wants her son to be safe. A father will build a jump for his son's bike. A mother would never allow it. A father will teach his son to hunt and fish. A woman is not interested in that. A father will teach his son to go out there and try to win. A mother will teach him that competition is bad, that everyone should win. And so today, we are surrounded by boys who grew up to be men that a woman would create. He is kind, considerate, safe, moderate, sensitive, but lacking an edge and a strength that his father would have given him. He is lacking something fundamental that women need and crave in a man. And this is a big reason why women today are so uninspired by the choice they have in men out there. And the cycle feeds itself and gets worse. And this is the essence of the nice guy in the dating world today. These are the guys who either didn't have any kind of a father at all, or whose fathers were dominated by their wives. Of course, the extreme opposite of the nice guy is the jerk. We all know guys like that. Well, believe it or not, both the nice guy and the jerk are created by the exact same shaping influence, the lack of a father figure that they respected in their formative years. One takes the path of submissiveness, believing that women will not like him if he doesn't cater to them, and attempts to show that he will do anything for them. The nice guy. This is what they watched their father do. The other bears in his heart fear and a faint hatred of women in general. He never saw a man respecting a woman as he was growing up, or he felt dominated and manipulated by his mother. Generation after generation, fathers handed down wisdom to their sons. This is how you be a man. This is how you wield an axe. This is how you treat a woman. Men were masculine, women were feminine. This model of handing down the wisdom of the ages from father to son worked very well, right up until about 30, 40 years ago. Our generation. Our grandfathers received knowledge from their fathers, etc., etc. Open the door for a lady son. Take charge. Well, when our grandfathers and fathers tried to hand down the same guidebook to us, the navigational charts on how to be a man and how to treat a woman, our ships hit rocks and ran aground. But it has been the model for thousands of years in every society. The Greeks, the Romans. Information has always been crucially passed from fathers to sons. until now. For the first time in history, it has all changed. That's why men feel lost. It is different today than it has ever been. We live in a world where either we had no fathers to tell us how to be men, or if we did, we discovered that none of the instructions they gave us applies in the dating world today. It's all different. Again, this is a very simple way of describing something that is extremely complex, and it's merely my take on things. I am not a psychoanalyst. There are many different influences that we observed and experienced growing up. All of it contributed to who we are today. But the essence of what I'm saying here is true. The lack of a proper role model father in our life is something that society today has lost. I believe that the loss of our fathers, or the lack of approval of our fathers, or the loss of respect for our fathers, is by far the biggest reason we have dysfunction in our relationships with women. It is why we can't get a date. It is why a woman will not trust us with her body. It is why we can't keep her. It is why we put her on a pedestal. It is why they don't respect us. It is why we mistreat and abuse her. It is why we are jerks to her. It is why we are so unfulfilled and so lost today. We are a generation of wounded men. All of us have unhealed wounds. Our fathers intentionally or unintentionally shot a metaphorical arrow into our heart when we were young. Sure, we have broken off the shaft of the arrow, and the skin has long since closed over the wound. But we have never truly healed. We still have the arrowhead inside of us that first pierced us. Rather, we have defined our lives around our wounds and the process of accepting them. And there is no answer out there in the multi-billion-dollar self-help industry for men. All the books, all the programs, all the saccharine and misguided dating advice, all the television shows, the talk shows, have failed men miserably. Men have lost their way and they see no help. This is why there is a new men's movement afoot. It is relatively new, created not by relationship gurus. We've always had those, men and women who give dating advice, who try to teach men how to have more meaningful relationships. Men today have recognized it all for what it is. Bullshit. It doesn't apply today. What our fathers never told us, or told us badly, is the biggest reason that we no longer know how to relate to women. And that includes you. You have a wound. The difference with you and others is that you recognize there is something lacking in your soul, are tired of it, and are taking steps to change it. Essentially, what we are all sharing with each other today is the talk our fathers never gave us. Women know what you're all about right away. Within a few seconds, she's already categorized you. She does this with every man she meets for her whole life. There's 5 boxes that women have. There's either this box over here, and she puts every man into one of these boxes right away within a few seconds. You're in one of those boxes when you meet a girl. The one over here is, that guy's kind of creepy, I don't like him at all. You're in that box. This box over here is neither here nor there. Just a guy, I don't think anything about him at all. There's that box. This box here is, that guy's a nice guy, he would make a nice friend for me. The 4th box is long-term potential. I really like this guy. I might be able to get something with this guy long-term. So I have to play my cards right and be discreet and very nice and kind and around him. The 5th box is, I would like to sleep with that guy. You're in one of those boxes with every girl you know. Every single one. And it's very difficult to get moved from one box to the other. She puts you in one of those boxes immediately. All women have the same rating system. So who are these creatures that inhabit the earth called women? Men today have the viewpoint that it is us over here and them over there. So many men view women as some kind of enemy, like a force to be conquered or overcome. The dating and relationship scene is viewed as some kind of a struggle or epic battle. Men are over here, arrayed on a hill, staring helplessly across an abyss of silence at women in their walled and imposing fortress. We gather in our trenches and we draw up elaborate strategies and ingenious plans to find a way to effectively breach their walls. Men sometimes try a direct assault, finding themselves dodging a rainstorm of arrows and boiling oil. For if anything, women are very skilled at defending against a direct attack. So we retreat and lick our wounds. Surely there must be a better way. So we try sending out scouts. We try to intercept and disrupt their female communications to understand them. And when we do, we work feverishly through the night trying to break their codes. You've heard about chick logic, paying attention to what she does, not what she says. That's code breaking. When that doesn't work, some in our ranks, some men suggest that maybe we should become spies. You know, act like we are not the enemy, that our intentions are not to gain access to the fortress. We just want to hang around outside the walls. We want to be friends. We have no interest in actually entering. We're content to just wander around outside as long as she allows us to remain close. We give her rides everywhere. We do all these things. She, of course, allows it and doesn't attack us with her arrows because she feels our intentions are just that. We only want to be friends. That's what we tell her. But our intentions are not just that. This is a secret attempt to tunnel underneath her walls. We hope she is lulled into a false sense of safety. Our intentions are entirely noble, after all, but when she isn't looking, we are sure working hard to burrow our way under the walls. Is it war? Is that a rather harsh way of describing it? Not to a lot of men. They really feel like they have seen combat. Their war stories about their battles with women are legion. But there is a different way. There are some men who can ride up to her walls, solitary, who approach her gates directly, honestly, and openly. I am not your enemy. I am not going to hurt you. I am not about to attack you. I am on your side. Let me in. And guess what? She does. She opens her gate willingly and lets him in. This is where you want to be. You want to be a friend to women, not her enemy. You know, 150 years ago, Thoreau wrote, "The mass of men live lives of quiet desperation." This is as true today as it was back then. How many men look out the window and wonder where it all went? Why the world hasn't provided him with what he always dreamed about? We grew up in a world that didn't look anything like the world we really wanted to grow up in. You know, we wanted epic adventures, and what did we get? 2 weeks vacation. We wanted a mission, and what did we get? A lawn that needs mowing. We wanted a purpose, and we got a cubicle. We wanted a beautiful damsel, and we got jaded career women. We wanted a noble steed. We ended up with a minivan. We wanted a castle, and we got a mortgage. We wanted wisdom, and we got insipid talk shows. We wanted treasure, and what did we get? Endless debt. Imagine, if you will, your ideal woman. Most of us have this image already in us. It is the girl that would make us happy forever, if only we could find her. It might be someone you know or have known in your past. You might be a film star. You might be a completely fictitious woman, maybe conjured up in books you have read. Or maybe there isn't a lot of substance to her at all. Maybe she is just your overarching concept of womanness, a composite image. Think of it like this. She is the woman that would make you forget every other woman if you could just have her in your life. She is the woman that would make it unnecessary for you to be listening to me talk about this right now. She is the woman that would finally make you happy, make you inspired. She is the one you would love your friends to see you with. Walking into a club or a party with her on your arm. How would you feel the whole time? You would feel this intense level of confidence because she is with you and nobody else at the party. What you have just imagined is the image of your ideal woman. We all have that in us. A lot of you have conquered the business world, have great friends, have cool things you like to do as hobbies, but you don't yet have her. This woman that you imagine. You see, formed in each of us in our earliest years is our personal version of the ideal woman. No one has the same image in mind. Here's a poem I wrote a long time ago. Man has only ever searched for 3 things in this world: the perfect note, the source of light, an alabaster girl. You see, I call this ideal woman that each of us has inside of us the alabaster girl, a vision so perfect and so lovely and so complete in us and so rare that no real woman could ever come close to approximating her. Our alabaster girl that we all hold and cherish inside of us is a compilation of all the traits that we desire in women. She might be vaguely similar to her mother, or she might not.